Week 13 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few wide receivers I looked to hit off the wire this week. The first guy, Zay Jones of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Zay Jones, the first 3 weeks of the season, showed good flashes, and then he's pretty much disappeared over the last few weeks, even though he's gotten it going a little bit before this big breakout game versus the Ravens. Week 9 versus the Raiders, 5 catches, 40 yards. Week 10 at the Chiefs, 8 catches, 68 yards. And Week 12 versus Baltimore, 11 catches, 145 yards, 2-point conversion, and 14 targets. And now over the last 3 ball games here for Zay Jones, he's got a whopping 29 targets. And another great matchup coming up, Week 13 at Detroit. So right now available in tons of fantasy leagues here, Zay Jones at 76%. And he's the #1 wide receiver target to get off the wire this week. The next guy, Traylon Burks of the Tennessee Titans. I mentioned Burks last week as an ad, and right here, once again, another good ball game for Traylon Burks and the deep ball threat, obviously, for this Tennessee Titan team. So the last few games before he came off injury, Week 10 versus Denver, 3 catches, 24 yards. Week 11 at Green Bay, 7 catches, 111 yards on 8 targets. And Week 12 versus Cincinnati, a good ball game, 6 targets, 4 catches, 70 yards. And a fumble recovery touchdown where Derrick Henry looked like he was going to get in, but they popped it loose from him, and Burks jumped right on it and scored a touchdown. So obviously a bonus 6 for him, but he's a top target on this team. They don't have many weapons. Robert Woods hasn't done much this season. Westbrook-Ikhine, a couple flash games here and there, but Burks is the true #1 wide receiver, in my opinion, here for this Tennessee Titan team. And a guy still available in 49% leagues. The next guy's Matt Collins of the Las Vegas Raiders. So Matt Collins, he's been an up-and-down receiver this season for this Raider team, but he's a guy that's a big target. He's a red zone threat, no doubt about it. And Hunter Renfrow, he's not coming back for the next couple weeks as well. So the last 2 games, he's had double-digit fantasy games. And going back to Week 10 for Matt Collins. Week 10 versus the Colts, 1 carry in that one, 2 catches, 18 yards. Week 11 at Denver, 6 catches, 52 yards on 9 targets. And Week 12 at Seattle, 4 catches, 63 yards and a touchdown on 5 targets. So Week 13, it could be another shootout type of ball game here with the Raiders versus the Los Angeles Chargers. So right now, Holland's a big target. Hunter Renfrow, I don't think he's coming back soon, in the next week or 2, at least here for this Las Vegas Raider team. And even early in the season, Renfrow wasn't really doing much. So Holland's available in 80% of fantasy leagues, and he's a receiver to add this week. The next guy, Jameson Williams of the Detroit Lions. It looks like the rookie is going to make his season debut in Week 13 here for this Detroit Lion team. And he's right now available in 61% of fantasy leagues here. He was a top pick at the wide receiver position in the NFL draft. And he's got a pretty decent schedule coming up over the next couple weeks. Week 13 versus Jacksonville, 9th most fantasy points to wide receivers. Week 14 versus Minnesota, 5th most fantasy points. And then Week 15 at the Jets. I know it's a tough matchup, but right here, this Lion team really don't have a #2 receiver. DJ Chark hasn't done much this season. Josh Reynolds, he had a couple decent games, but he's banged up. And Khalif Raymond, more of a slot guy. So to have Amon St. Brown and Jameson Williams are 2 good receivers for this Detroit Lion team. And he's a guy to get this week. And rookie wide receivers, always guys to target, especially late in the season. And the 5th and final wide receiver is another rookie, Sky Moore of the Kansas City Chiefs. So Sky Moore, week after week, it looks like he's getting more opportunity, no pun intended here, for this Kansas City Chiefs team. And I know Kadarius Toney was out. I know Valdez-Scantling had a pretty decent ball game after a bad game, but he's just an inconsistent wide receiver that I wouldn't pay mind to. And right here, Sky Moore, 5 catches, 36 yards, and a fumble loss on 6 targets. So the last couple weeks here, he's getting more opportunity. He's playing more here. And McCole Hardman, he's out at least another couple more weeks on IR with his injury. So right now, another rookie receiver available on the wire in 90% of fantasy leagues in a high-powered offense. And he's a guy to go get this week. So that's a few wide receivers I looked at on the waiver wire for Week 13 of the fantasy football season.